Hello and welcome back to the Second Take Podcast. My name is Calvin Williams. I'm here with my co-host Marco Rogers, and today we are coming at you with a quick recap of last week of college football, as well as getting you ready for week 1 in this exciting season. So let's get it started right away. Marco, can you give us a quick recap of the 2 games that went down last week and what happened in them?
So I'm going to start out with the USC versus San Jose State game. Definitely the more exciting game between the two. At halftime, 21-14, USC's defense, probably the biggest question for this team coming into the season, looked atrocious. They could not stop this San Jose State offense. Now, San Jose State is actually not that bad a team. I expect them to probably win, I believe, the Sun Belt and probably be around an 8-win team. But still, I mean, they're not Power 5. This should be an easy game for this defense to sort of get warmed up for the tougher games down the road. And they got torched. San Jose State's quarterback, Cordiero, he was doing whatever he wanted. They converted a 3rd and 22. And, I mean, the first half, it looked like they could possibly be on upset alert. But USC in the second half, I mean, Caleb Williams played well all along, but the offense really turned it up. I mean, the offense could really do whatever they wanted all game. There were just a few odd plays where Caleb Williams got sacked or, drops. That was the only way that this offense was getting stopped. And USC was able to pull away. Zachariah Branch, a tremendous game. I mean, the kick return, all the punt returns, San Jose State simply could not tackle a guy that fast. And, I mean, San Jose State fought hard, probably could have scored again at the end, made the score look a little closer. But overall, I didn't love what I saw from USC today overall because the only thing I was really looking at was their defense, and it was bad. I expected their offense to do this, and they did. So, I mean, congratulations, but definitely not that impressive of a game for USC.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams was doing Caleb Williams things. He had a 76-yard touchdown on a fumbled snap. So, I mean, he's just a magician in the pocket. But like you said, their defense was just underwhelming, to say the least. I mean, we knew it was going to be the weak point of this team, the Achilles heel. But, I mean, at some point you do expect to shut down a non-Power 5 team to a certain level. And that is what Notre Dame did in this next game. Notre Dame beats Navy 42-3. Just a dominant performance all around. Sam Hartman played great. I think this is super encouraging for Notre Dame fans, although I am not a fan of Notre Dame fans or Notre Dame, the school itself. Sam Hartman played phenomenal, 19 for 23, 251 yards and 4 touchdowns. Just 0 picks, too. Just a great game from him. And then you have Audric Estime, 95 yards and a rushing touchdown. People are like, he's the Heisman. I mean, he was good, but I wouldn't say he was all that. And then just great defensive performance from them. I mean, I'm not going to say Navy's the strongest offensive team. They threw the ball 7 times in the entire game. So, not totally impressive that they shut them down that well. But, I mean, even to be able to hold their running game to the minimum that they did, I think it was a very good positive for this Notre Dame team.
I mean, Navy, they just fired their coach after a bad year. They're going to be even worse this year. This is going to be Navy's worst year in a long, long time, and they're never that good. Also, Notre Dame plays this triple option run attack every year, so I feel like they've probably gotten used to it, and they know how to shut it down. They're also just better players. I would not come away with much from this win. You'd be a very, very bad team if you ask me. I mean, Audric Estime, yeah, he looked great. But, I mean, run like this against Ohio State and run like this against some of your tougher opponents down the road, and then I would say maybe he can be in the Heisman conversation. But just, I mean, they did what they're supposed to do. I'm not going to come away being impressed. I mean, Sam Hartman did look very sharp, and Notre Dame didn't look bad like they did at the beginning of last year. Not underwhelming, not a loss to Marshall, but still nothing too special at Notre Dame here.
Yep, and then for our breakout player from last week, Marco did touch on this guy a little bit. Zachariah Branch doing everything for USC. Had a receiving touchdown, bunch of receiving yards, And then I think what everyone is mainly impressed by was the work he did in the return game. Like you said, he had that crazy kick return. All of the punt returns were so exciting to watch. Just great game from him. Super promising freshman.
Yeah, he had 4 receptions, 58 yards, and most of them weren't even passes. They were just giving him the ball and letting him just do whatever against this defense. And then obviously that kick return, one of the most impressive kick returns I've seen in a long time. I mean, he had to break like probably around 8 tackles. Most big kick returns you see are just they run around the whole defense, but he was doing some impressive stuff. He just looked so much better than these guys. Obviously, he's the number 1 receiver of the 2023 class, so you expect him to do this, but to this extent, I did not expect, and he definitely impressed me a lot. And I'm looking forward to see if he can do this against the more quality opponents they face pretty soon down the line.
Yeah, definitely one of the more exciting freshmen that you'll see in college football, if not the most exciting. And that will finish off last week's stuff. Let's move on to the week coming up this weekend. These games, let's start with our breakout players. I'll go first. I actually have Kavasier Smoke, the Kentucky transfer, he was the number 2 transfer in the portal. He had an over 5,000 yard rushing career at Kentucky. And he transferred to Colorado. New system there with Dion and whatnot. I think he's going to fit super well with all the other transfers. And I think he's going to give TCU a really hard time this week. Margo?
Yeah, TCU's run defense, not that good. Obviously, they did pretty good against Michigan last year. But I do think that Kavasier Smoke could have some success. I don't know if Colorado's O-line is not that good. They got a lot of flashy players. I'm just not sure if they have enough in the trenches to really push TCU back. But definitely a very talented player, and I think he can do some pretty solid stuff against TCU this upcoming Saturday. My breakout player is going to be Nicholas Harbor, the South Carolina receiver. I do not expect him to start or get more than 7 touches, maybe not even more than 5 touches this game. But I think similar to what Zachariah Branch did last week, he is just going to cook this North Carolina defense. Zachariah Branch, he was a freak athlete versus a bad defense, and that is exactly what this is a case of right here. I mean, this is a guy, he is 6'5", 230, and runs a 10-3, 10-3-8 100-meter dash, which is borderline Olympic level. This man is just too fast. No one can catch him on that defense. He's very strong as well. He's tall. He can make catches. And I think give him the ball 4 times this game, he could maybe have over 100 yards. I think there'll be a play where he just runs away from the whole defense for a touchdown. And I think despite the fact that he will not get the ball much, I think he can influence the result of this game in a very big game for South Carolina.
Yeah, super exciting guy. Definitely ready to see that rivalry between the Carolinas this weekend. And then moving on to our upset picks this week, I'm going with my gut. Going with my breakout player prediction. I'm taking Colorado to beat number 17 TCU. Like I said, big plays from Kavasier Smoke. Over 80% of their roster is new players. I just don't think that they're going to continue the downfall that they had last season, and I think they have a good chance of getting 7, 8, maybe even 9 wins this season. So in my opinion, it's a super promising future for Colorado, or they could just crash and burn and it'll be another terrible season. But could definitely go either way, but I'm choosing to believe. Marco?
Yeah, this team has lost lots of flashy players. I expect them to make probably 4 or 5 huge plays in this game. Travis Hunter, probably one of the most talented players in college football. Shedeur Sanders could be a very good quarterback. He was good at Jackson State. But pretty much half of the transfers came from non-FBS football, which is why I think that TCU is just going to show them what FBS football is, and they're just going to win this game in the trenches, which is, I mean, what they are capable of doing, as they showed last year against Michigan. Not that they dominated the trenches, but they were able to hold their own against one of the best run defenses in one of the best run offenses in the country. They didn't lose much on defense, so I think that they'll be able to shut down this Colorado offense enough. And TCU always has a good offense, so I think they'll do solid. My upset pick is number 21, North Carolina at South Carolina. As I said, I think Nicholas Harbor will have a huge game. I think Spencer Rattler, he usually comes to play in the bigger games. I think he will. I think he's due for a pretty big season here. And I think South Carolina gets it done against their rivals at home. Very, very tough place to play. They get a lot of upsets there. And I think outside of Drake May, North Carolina just isn't that good of a team. And I think South Carolina has more depth. I think they'll win this game in the trenches, and they'll win this game pretty handily. I don't expect it to be extremely close. I do think North Carolina will compete, but I think South Carolina wins this game by a couple of scores.
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina ending off last season with 4 straight losses, multiple of them being pretty close, or all of them being close except for the Clemson game. So this North Carolina team really needs to get back on track to start out this season. Otherwise, it could be a downhill track from here. And like you said, that South Carolina team definitely has some guys. I think they're severely underrated going into this season. But then again, North Carolina's offense, crazy high-powered with Drake May leading the charge. So going to be a really good game there. And you said, I think you think South Carolina's going to win by a decent margin. I think that's going to be a really close one. But we'll definitely see what happens. You got anything else?
Nope. Next up, we will predict week 1 of college football. To start off, we're just going to talk about Michigan versus East Carolina. I think this is our best non-conference opponent. They lost a lot of their team in the transfer portal, but they were actually very solid last year. I believe they won 8 games. They competed with NC State. Probably should have won that game opening day. Obviously, they lost a lot of their team, and Michigan is not NC State. But I mean, don't be shocked if East Carolina is able to put in maybe a touchdown or 2 on Michigan. I think Michigan will dominate this game. I don't expect it to be anywhere close. Hopefully there's no injuries. That's probably the biggest thing. But, I mean, definitely the toughest opponent we will see until week 4 or 5 when we get into our pretty weak early Big Ten conference play. So just excited to see Michigan football back. And I expect my score prediction is 52-10.
Yeah, like you said, from this game, you're really just hoping for no injuries. But apart from that, I'm hoping to see Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum both just thriving in the run game. I want to see Blake Corum back and completely healthy. Same with Donovan Edwards. Like you said, he was fighting that patella injury off towards the end of the season, as well as the thumb. So, I mean, seeing both those guys healthy will be super refreshing, and I just hope they can stay that way for the entire season. Next up, we have Florida at number 14, Utah. Marco, you want to start us off?
Yep, Florida won this game last year with Anthony Richardson. He had an incredible performance. This is back when people are saying he's going to win the Heisman. Florida lost a lot last year, but they are one of the most talented teams in college football, like they are every year. Maybe they can put it together this year. I don't think they will, but I think they can definitely compete against this Utah team. Cameron Rising, questionable. Obviously had that injury against Penn State in that bowl game last year. If he's injured, I think Florida wins this game. Utah probably has a decent backup quarterback, but I don't think they'll be that good. I think this Florida defense is too talented to throw a backup QB out there. Utah losing their best offensive player from last year in Dalton Kincaid. I just don't think that they have enough firepower to really win the Pac-12. I do think that they can squeeze by this game at home, not in the swamp, which is very big. This is a Thursday night game, actually tomorrow night. So I expect it to be close. Lots of week 1 struggles for both teams, but I think Utah can edge this one out. And I think Florida with Graham Mertz at quarterback, he is simply not good, so they will lose.
Yeah, I mean, last year in Billy Napier's opening game as the Florida head coach, they did beat Utah. But like you said, being in the swamp is a huge advantage, and that's where they were at last year. So this game being at Utah is definitely going to be a big shift for Florida. And also, Billy Napier only won one road game a year ago, so that's going to be really tough to overcome. I mean, some coaches just can't win away games. Harbaugh had that problem for quite a while, especially road games against like Michigan State, Ohio State. So overcoming that's going to be a big thing for Florida this year if they want to take a step in the right direction. I got Utah on this one.
Yeah, definitely going to be an exciting game. Next up, number 3 Ohio State at Indiana. Kyle McCord has been announced the starter. He has very good chemistry with Marvin Harrison as they played in high school together. Although Devin Brown, they said we'll see some snaps in this game. I do not expect Ohio State to struggle at all. Indiana was not good last year, and they got worse, lost a lot of transfers. Pretty much the 3 best players transferred. Should be a pretty easy game here for Ohio State. Pretty much a cupcake game, if you ask me. Probably the worst or the second worst team in the Big Ten besides Northwestern here in Indiana. So don't expect it to be close, but I'm excited to see how good Kyle McCord really is and if he is good enough to beat a good team for Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I hope Ohio State sucks, but I mean, that's a little biased. For as far as Indiana goes, like you said, they're not a very good team. They have been known to give teams some struggles, especially at their own stadium in Indiana, but they just don't have anything this year. Like it's really a rough year for Indiana, and I think Ohio State runs away with this one pretty early.
Yeah, definitely likely to be a pretty dominant game here. Next up, West Virginia at number 7 Penn State. Very excited to see Drew Allard. He is a guy who could make or break this Penn State season. If he's as good as people are saying, Penn State could maybe even run the Big Ten East, though I do think Michigan's still better. If he's as good as many Penn State fans think he is, they are going to be a scary, scary team this year. With that defense, Kalen King, Chop Robinson, like this is going to be a tough team to beat. West Virginia will not beat them. They're okay on the lower side of the Big 12. I did not expect them to do much in the Big 12. And they have some talent on that roster. They can put up some points, maybe close at halftime. Night game at Happy Valley, they are not going to lose. So give me Penn State. Even if Drew Aller struggles, I still think that they're just a better team with Nick Singleton and Keandre Allen.
Yeah, and I honestly think only a 20.5 favorite for Penn State is a little disrespectful, just considering that night game at Penn State, even if it's not a whiteout. I mean, that is such a harsh condition to play in. I mean, this is the number 7 team in the country with a scary good defense, and we could really be shocked by their firepower on offense. So Penn State runs away with this one. Shouldn't be given too much trouble. But once again, I mean, this is a Power 5 opponent, so you do never know. But in my opinion, Penn State gets this one done. No trouble at all.
Yep. Next up, number 21, North Carolina at South Carolina. I already said South Carolina will win. So, Cal, what is your prediction for this game?
I'm actually going to take UNC here, just because I think Drake May is going to I think it's going to be a super high-scoring game, first of all. I think it's probably going to be high 50s, low 60s. And Drake May is going to throw for like 5 touchdowns, and they're just going to barely get it done. But, I mean, I don't hate your pick at all because South Carolina is a very good, or not a very good team, but they're a very solid team. But I do think North Carolina's firepower is just going to slightly edge them out here. It's going to be sort of like the Appalachian State game from last year from North Carolina versus Appalachian State.
Yeah, definitely going to be one of the most exciting games of week 1. Next up, Oregon State at San Jose State. San Jose State last week proved that at least for a few quarters they can compete with some of the best teams in the country. I think Oregon State's defense is better than USC's defense, so I think maybe harder for San Jose State to play, but this is their second game, Oregon State's first game, and San Jose State is shockingly at home against a top 20 team. I think this is the definition of a trap game, a team that's already proven themselves to not be awful, and at home, second game, as I said. I think that this could be real trouble here for Oregon State. Excited to see what DJ Uiagalelei can do in that Oregon State offense. I mean, if he struggles like he did in Clemson, I think San Jose State can honestly win this game. Uh, and I think that he's actually going to have a solid performance if Oregon State wants to win. I do think that he'll be better in this offense. And I think Oregon State wins this game probably around 44-17. But if he struggles, maybe a pick six, this game could get really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, DJ Uiagalelei, or however you say it, he really had some problems at Clemson. I don't know if it was mental, because he was like one of the top recruits in the country coming into college, and he was just an absolute mess, throwing picks, fumbles. It just seemed like you were never getting anything good out of him when he came into the game. So I mean, I like the guy. I do hope that he succeeds here at Oregon State, but like you said, easily could be a trap game. I think their defense will get it done. I don't think San Jose State's going to score enough to win this, but Oregon State's going to be an upset watch for sure.
Yeah, definitely going to be a game to keep an eye on. Next up, number 9 Clemson at Duke. I think Duke is probably the 5th best team in the SEC, in the ACC this year. I think they can give one of the teams in Florida State, Clemson. I think they can give one of those teams a big problem this year. They won 4 of their last 5 last year, only loss being a 2-point loss at Pitt. I think they only got better over the offseason. At home, night game. I think Duke can seriously give this team some problems. Cade Klubnik, just his first start against Tennessee in the bowl game, went terribly. I mean, this game could get very, very interesting. Definitely going to be my second favorite game to watch this weekend, just to see if Clemson really is the real deal. A big test week 1. And I mean, if they lose this game, their playoff hopes are pretty much already over. So lots of pressure on them. Duke, they're a team that maybe could even sneak into a New Year's Six Bowl come the end of the year. So I'm just excited to see if Clemson truly is that good with Cade Klubnik and Will Shipley, or if Duke will somewhat expose that very good defense and will take advantage of an inexperienced quarterback and come out with a stunner here.
Who you got?
I got Duke winning this game.
Oh, gotcha.
No. I got Clemson, but I think that this will be a very close game. I got Clemson by 3.
All right. In my opinion, I think Clemson's gonna, I'm usually a Clemson hater, but for some reason this year, to me, just feels different. I think they silence everyone right at the start of the season, really let them know that they're going for the playoffs this year, trying to return to where they were. I think Clemson takes care of business here, no problem.
Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting game to watch. One of the more important games this week to see if Clemson really is a playoff contender. But the biggest game of the week, one of the biggest games of the year, number 5 LSU versus number 8 Florida State. Mason Smith suspended for this game, a terrible decision by the NCAA. He signed autographs about 3 days before NIL became a thing. He got $50 or something for an autograph, and now they're suspending him. Stupid decision. He's one of the best defenders in college football. That's pretty tragic for LSU. Could definitely influence this game, and I actually think it will. I think Trey Benson and that Florida State offense, as I talked about last week, they're one of the scariest offense in college football. I think they can maybe run up the middle on LSU some more without their star D tackle, and I think Jordan Travis makes some impressive plays in this game. However, LSU, I mean, probably a top 5 most talented team in college football. They still got Jaden Daniels, still got talent all over that offense. And the defense, Harold Perkins still out there. Their secondary is phenomenal. So I think that this game will definitely be very, very close. I mean, so many playmakers on both sides. Jared Verse on Florida State's defense. Definitely tough to pick, but I will edge it out and say Florida State by 4 in this game. I'll say 38-34 Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, this game is going to be super telling for who makes the college football playoff this year and who doesn't. I actually have Florida State and Jordan Travis is just going to have a phenomenal game. I think he's throwing for 3 touchdowns, running for 1 also. And I think they win by 14, 35 21, and I think it's going to be a dominant performance, to be honest. I mean, I hope it's a close game just because it's going to be something good to watch on Saturday night, but I think Florida State's going to be super explosive this year, and with LSU without their main defensive guy, I think it's going to be really hard for them to stop Jordan Travis.
Yeah, still lots of talent on the LSU defense, but I'm definitely excited to see if Florida State will live up to the hype that everyone is giving them, including me. I mean, I have them at the third best team in the country at the end of the year. And if they lose this game, that can definitely change. Their season will be over after 4 weeks. They play Clemson week 4. And if they win those 2 games, I think that this will be one of the best teams in college football and a true natty contender. But a Sunday night game, that game will definitely be on everyone's TV, hopefully. And very excited to see the first real week in college football this year.
Yeah, such an exciting week. Yeah, anything else?
Nope.
Yep, we will see if number 8, Florida State, can come out on top. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Bye.